it's all hacked together, and now it's time for the first functional test. Well, it's not really the first functional test because I already know it works, but let's show you what's going on. Down here, here it is. We've got a lever that goes up and interacts with that limit switch. There is a limit switch in the top of the linear actuator, but I do not yet know if it is adjustable. Progressive Automations, where it comes from, was not answering my queries. So here's all the wiring. I've got a voltmeter over here just monitoring voltage to the motor. There it is, the up and down switch. And there's my power source. I have it set at 15 volts because as the current goes through all the wires, I drop about 2 volts. And we end up with 12 volts at the motor. So let's get to functioning. Now we're ready for the test, but you can see all these wires I've got going up and down here for the switch to operate it and how it's wired together. Let me pull this wire diagram down and you can see how it's set up. With the direction switch in the up position, positive current flows through the normally closed side of the limit switch, through the actuator motor, then back to B-. For those not familiar with electronics, the reversing diode is wired to block positive current flow, and current is blocked by the diode when the actuator trips the limit switch and the motor stops. With the actuator at its farthest travel and the direction switch is flipped to down, then negative current flows through the reversing diode and limit switch to the actuator, allowing it to move down and resetting the limit switch to its normal position. And that's about it for the wiring. So now for the test. As it goes up, this lever will contact this switch, stopping its upward motion. And then, as I showed in the diagram, current will now flow through this diode, allowing it to go in the opposite direction. There's an internal switch in the linear actuator that stops it on the way down. So let's get a close-up of that switch. And here we'll see, let go of this operation switch and watch this lever hits the lever on the micro switch and it stops. This mounting bracket for the switch and the mounting bracket for the lever here, or the actuator, was done on my 3D printer. This is adjustable up and down to set the upper level of the platform. We're not ready for a full weight test because I've only got about 1 inch into the clamp here at the bottom, and that's not enough. So what I'm going to need to do is move everything up about 2 or 3 inches, and then I'd be able to get a actual weight test, see how much weight this is going to support. Also, let's get another look underneath. And we get a look underneath. So right now, the platform isn't actually attached to the actuator. You see, I can just move it up. It's sitting right on this ledge, and I don't really like that. I don't think it's going to be good enough, and I need to make a bracket that comes out and comes underneath here, so it's got a positive connection. I'm also thinking that I'm going to need 2 of the linear bearings, top and bottom. Although it feels a little good right now. It was a little bit loose before, and I'm just a little concerned about play. So now my next step will be getting that everything moved on my test plywood, and then a full load test. I have my rework completed and ready to put it back on the bench, mounted in the vise. Here's a close-up looking at the upper limit switch. These are my only 2 mounting screws at this time. And we see we have much more room at the bottom now to mount it. And I've added a couple of brackets here that'll push against this plate, which should hold any amount of weight I want to put on there. So now it's time to get this moved back over to the bench. Down below here, we've got it clamped into a woodworking vise, and holding the top, we've just got a tie strap going down to the bench to keep it from bending over. Wiring is the same as it was before. Up here, we've got the upper limit switch. Down here, we've got a diode, and all this crazy wiring comes down here to the switch, the up and down switch, and it is basically that diagram. There's a simple diagram turned into this spider web of jumper cables. And now it's time to put some weight on the platform and see how it performs. Time for some performance testing. I added a clamp up on top. These are the only 2 screws holding it in. Bottom side is loose. This clamp will ensure these screws don't come out due to the extra weight added to the platform. And again, I've got this here preventing this from tilting forward, clamped in here. Bricks are just short of 5 pounds each. My machine is supposed to weigh in at about 13 pounds. So we're going to start with 10 pounds. Seems to be struggling a bit. Let's see what, it's only operating at 10 volts. I've got, the gauge wire I've got going to this is too small. So we have a large voltage drop between my power supply.
Oh no!
Oh, that's not good. That was unexpected. The platform is not physically attached to the actuator, and I might have to change that. Looks like we're going to have a little bit of design change here. So that was 10. I've got to raise my power supply voltage to compensate for the voltage drop. Here's the voltage at the motor. Hopefully we can see that on the camera. Don't know why it's jumping like that. Stops right at the top. And I gotta hold this in case it jumps and or sticks. No! There, see, we've got a little bit of an issue there. Apparently these guide rails do not like a torsional load. I'm gonna have to make another one that has 2 blocks, 2 bearing blocks, to be able to compensate for that torsional load. Let's bring it all the way down. Alright, that's the conclusion of this test. It is a failure, and we need to redesign, make a new plate, 2 bearing blocks both sides, to see if that compensates for the torsional load. Now I'm tearing it down so I can add another set of bearings to the guide rails. And here is a good look of where the plywood split because my pilot holes were too small. Off comes the mounting plate, and now it's time to mark up and drill some more holes. I use a small combination square to extend the lines from the previously drilled holes. Then, going by my print, I need to offset the new holes 2 inches. I use an automatic center punch to dink both crosshairs, then, using my calipers with one end in one of the dinks, I mark the crosshairs for the other set of holes. I do this for both sides, then, using a normal center punch, I make the dinks a little bit deeper. It's time to poke holes in my plate for the new blocks. I've got them center punched. And for drilling sheet metal, this is my preferred tool. They are called annular cutters. Here you get a view of my whole small set. And it goes from 1/4 inch to 3/4. I've got the 1/4 inch cutter in there right now. And all you need to use these is the center punch. And on the back end, there's very little flashing that's coming out that has to be cleaned up. And a quick run with a countersink and it'll clean all that up. So there's all my holes. Now to get it all reassembled and see if it works with the 4 blocks. Plate drilled, ready to go. Now I need to ensure, before I mount it up to the platform, that it fits. Get threaded in. That's good. It slides without issues. All right, now I'm going to get this mounted back up to the platform and we'll get it set up to see how it works. And now it is time to find out if all of my new holes are aligned. Oops, I forgot to install the limit switch tab. I am hoping I will be able to relocate the internal limit switch, but I will have to disassemble the actuator to find out. I have sent the manufacturer a couple of messages, but I guess they have no interest and will not respond. This seems typical for today's level of customer service. ready for testing. Here we go again. Gonna get this test done. Platform re-drilled the mounting plate using 2 of the bearing blocks. The slit rails come with 2 each, so that didn't cost me anything. First thing we're going to do is test to make sure the stop is working at the top. A little bit over travel. Yeah, that's good enough for now. So, where we left off last time, 2 bricks, these are 5 pounds apiece. And this is where it failed. So far, so good. £15. This is the weight of the machine I have here. It's supposed to be about 13. I'm going to be watching this voltage and turn that up as needed. We're still good. We're holding at 14 volts. Actually, now it's just flush, not so much over travel. And coming down. No issues. That's going to be around 20 pounds. I'm not seeing any flex. Woohoo! This is as far as I'm going. 25 pounds. Not going to do anything after that. A quick look around. The whole board is flexing. It's okay. This is the only support I have is the tie down. I'm not seeing any flex in the mounting area. So, the last test, 20 pounds. Significantly slower. And coming down, I'm getting ready in case something goes wrong. I think we have a viable elevator. It's really slow to get started. Looking at my power supply, we've got 3 amps, 13 volts at the motor. So that's the conclusion of this part of the video. It appears as though I have a viable method for the elevator. I just have to work out the best way now to mount this thing into the desk, and that might take some time.